Amazon is in a technical thin zone here. We are in a developing volume profile. So again, when you're using these bars in a developing volume profile, it's not as strong, but it is still tradable. Spiffy, I would want to see this one break above this 97 for it to really take off. You do have the 50-day moving average at 102. That'd be your first target. And if we break above that, then we're looking at 113 in Amazon as we sashay our fine selves up this thin zone in Amazon. Next up, big trade Jim is looking at mRNA. Speaking of biotech, mRNA, I mean, look at this perfect volume profile retest. So the reason mRNA did drop is because technically, look, this one is in a thin zone as well. We did hold on the value area, which are the stronger bars. Look where we held, guys, perfectly right on this bar here. And now we're gapping up. If we could stay above 176.24, that is going to remain support, and it is bullish, big trade Jim, which you did call. And my volume profile highlight is going to be PayPal. This is a request that was brought to me yesterday on Pump Up the Close. And just looking at how the volume profile was reacting to the price, PayPal perfectly held the value area low, 71.08. We started to ramp higher. We used we got over the point of control, used it as support. I was telling you guys, this one does look bullish, and it continues to look bullish. It is hitting the first upside target of around 78, and I'm looking for 83.57 in good old PayPal. Mark, is any big money flow or the options chain confirming some trades here?
Well, these are all pretty heavily traded stocks. Moderna is an interesting one. Let's talk Amazon and the long-term view of Amazon. It's now at levels when you look at it that you typically just don't see Amazon at for very long. We're talking 2-year lows, right? So if your belief is in the long term of this company, right? So the last time Amazon had gotten this cheap as of yesterday's close was in December of 2019. So it's at 2-year lows if you go back. This is one where maybe we actually kind of take a longer term view, an investment view, using an option on Amazon and say, hey, let's ride this to see if Amazon can recover over the next year. And believe it or not, implied volatility, not that crazy expensive, especially when you go further back. So I want to look at the Amazon 100 calls for January of 2024. They cost about $13. So you're spending $1,300. But what you're counting on is that over the next 6 months to a year, the rates start to pull back. The Fed pulls the brakes off. If we do get the soft landing, which I don't know if we're going to get it or not, you could see these calls over the next 6 months double or triple. And if Amazon just kind of sits here or flounders, and these calls will lose money, you end up selling them at $6. So you're risking $6-7 to try and make 13 or 20 or 30. So it's a long-term risk reward play on Amazon. I've set my Profit Revolution lifetime members up in kind of a similar trade using a butterfly that is even lower risk. I think a long-term butterfly in a name like Amazon makes a ton of sense. But I don't know if you are willing to look at kind of the long-term volume profile for huge trends on where this thing could get. But I just look at where it is from a kind of a long-term perspective, and I don't see a huge amount of downside, maybe, and the upside, who knows? I mean, this thing was $145 in August. I mean, that was not that long ago.
No.
So it was $120 at the end of October. So we're talking one good earnings, and these calls are gonna absolutely clean up. So it's a different strategy on some of these names than I normally would take, but in a name where long term I believe in the company, and there are some really positive things about Amazon, and then you're talking about something that I think is a pretty interesting play.
And like you said, Mark, in Profit Revolution, you do have a lower risk trade, but that's with a butterfly. So if you guys want to trade butterflies, that's in Profit Revolution. I like this. This is a kind of a new trade for us, Mark. So you're looking at the
Yeah,
Amazon $100 January 2024 calls. Uh, Nice
13
long-term play
months.
here. By the
Yeah.
way, we're getting a shout out from Spiffy Duffy on our team option that we teamed up on a couple weeks ago because the team did scream higher. And that's why I love doing this segment with you, Mark. All right, Mark, we're going to shine the spotlight on you right now because we got to get into some big money flow. And you saw some in emerging markets. What
Yeah, there was
emerged
some.
out of your scanner?
Yeah, this thing blew up yesterday. Now, when I was on the floor, this thing was the second most actively traded ETF after SPY. It traded more than the Qs on a lot of days, and we saw two huge trades. We saw one, a trader put a giant leg out. Net, they bought 125,000 of the June 47 calls. So you're talking a massive recovery in EEM. This thing has not been over into the 40 since the last time this thing was above $47 was February of this year. So we're talking a huge recovery. The other trade, kind of interesting, probably done against stock. They did a 1x3 call spread, buying 130 odd thousand, 120 odd thousand of the December 36 calls. I'm sorry, 107,000 of the December 36 calls, and they sold about 325,000 of the 37 calls. There was some other volume on top of it, but they did this 1x3 in the money call spread. And my guess is it was some sort of stock play where they're looking to get a couple basis points of yield over the next couple of days, but just really unique flow. I'm not entirely sure what to make of the December, quite frankly, but the June is very aspirationally bullish and maybe a little predictive of, if rates start dropping, EM is gonna absolutely take off. If the dollar softens, EM is going to be in really good shape. So this could be a really interesting play for EM and maybe a trader making a pretty big leg out that the emerging markets could be moving higher.
Yeah, so obviously this is a bullish take on EEM. Where does this stock need to go for some major profits for this big money trader?
I mean, they're going to start seeing profits if this thing makes a quick move above 40, right? These will double. It's all about the speed, right? If this thing just slowly meanders higher, they're not going to do very well. But if this thing
Right.
makes a big move over the next 3 months, they're going to crush it. This thing's trading $45 in March. These calls will be $2.50, $3. They'll be up 1,000% on them. And so there is, it's really about the speed. The long-term implied volatility on those EM calls not ridiculously high. We're talking 24%.
Mhm.
This was a big opening trade. There's some decent open interest at the 42 strike as well, but they're looking for a potentially strong move higher here.
Mark, want to know something interesting?
Sure.
The biggest holding in EM is Taiwan
Mhm.
Semiconductor. Is
Oh.
there kind of like a play you could do with that?
Yeah, well, they call it the emerging market index, but it's really not so much emerging markets anymore, right? It's China, Brazil, Taiwan. It's a lot more mature markets than it was when it was developed. And Taiwan Semiconductor has been in the toilet. I know CJ is still short term a little bit not in love with the semiconductors, but I think if you're have a 3 to 6 month outlook on semis, you have a 1 year outlook. Sentiment is so bad in those semiconductors that I think they're now at a level where I do think they're investable. I like Intel, I like AMD. I still think Nvidia needs Bitcoin to turn around before it really starts taking off, because that Nvidia chip is such a big deal in mining. But the chips as a whole, SMH, you could absolutely talk me into setting up an Amazon style, similar to what I did in Amazon, that type of trade in some of the chip names.
Mark, TSM, I'm just going to show this real quick. We looks like we're going to gap above the point of control today. Closing in the
Mm-hmm.
green, we have a nice little thin zone to the upside here, right to the 200-day moving average at 85.54. This might be a fun little call play to play today with a continued movement going higher.
All right.
Mark,
Well, let's look and well, hey, you can't bring
hey,
up a short term play without me looking at some options. So
woo!
it's up 2%. We're trading 82.10 right now. Yesterday's 80.5 calls. Yesterday's 81 calls were about a buck 12. My guess is the 82.5 calls are going to be, yeah, they're probably going to be about a buck 15. I'm expecting implied volatility to actually drop a little bit, so maybe a little over a dollar. Those would be a play for Friday. So if we get a little bit of follow through on the open, you buy the 82.5 calls for between $1 and $1.10, and this thing makes a run at 85. You're gonna make a pretty penny in the course of a couple days. It's a high risk, high reward trade. If these if Amazon fails, what's our fail level on not Amazon? What's our fail level on TSM?
I would take the other side of the trade if we get below 79.09, then I'd actually be shorted. It's a really nice. I
All
like
right.
this setup a lot because you
We
have
get to
a
79. We get to 79.09. These were trading 40 cents. You bail on them. Otherwise, you ride them up to $85 and you make $3.50.
guys.
So there
We
you
just
go.
got a second trade out of Mark Sebastian, who made sure you guys got a trade after looking at this chart. So Mark, you the man. You the man now, dog.
I be the man. You need the best woman, and that is the best woman trader on the planet, and that is one Olivia Vaz, who gives me the love.
Woo!